There's a man. His suit is tailored. His smile, warm, never too wide. He laughs at the right jokes, compliments without overdoing it, makes everyone feel seen. At the dinner table, he's the perfect guest. The host says he's so genuine, but something about him feels off. You can't explain it. You just know. Behind that polished face, something hides, a silence between his words, an absence behind his eyes, as if the man is performing himself, as though the real person never showed up. This is not a story about liars. This is a story about masks. Not the kind you wear to deceive outright, but the kind that blend so perfectly with expectation, they become indistinguishable from sincerity. The kind of mask that doesn't just hide the truth, it replaces it. Carl Jung called it the persona, the social face we present to the world, the agreeable worker, the polite neighbor, the romantic partner who says what you need to hear. The persona is necessary. It smooths over the chaos of our raw nature and allows society to function. But what happens when the mask stops being a tool and starts being the identity? That's when something deeply unsettling begins to occur. A hollowing, a slow evaporation of authenticity. And yet, on the surface, everything seems fine. The faker might even appear more functional than others, more composed, more likable, because the mask is not cracked. Machiavelli understood this long before psychology gave it a name. He wrote, "It is unnecessary for a prince to have all the good qualities I have enumerated, but it is very necessary to appear to have them." It is the appearance that grants power, not truth, not virtue, not depth, just performance. And the better the performance, the more dangerous the person. Because now we're not dealing with a liar. We're dealing with an actor who believes his own role. A person who has fused so thoroughly with the mask that they no longer recognize the deception. This is the useful faker, a term we'll return to. They do not deceive maliciously, at least not at first. They learn over time that being pleasing earns rewards, that nodding at the right time makes people like you, that a well-timed compliment or a mimicked emotional response gains trust. They survive by reflecting your expectations. But beneath this elegance is emptiness, a void where selfhood should be. And here's the terrifying part. The faker may not even know they're faking, because the mask isn't just something they wear. The mask is something they've become. And if you look closely enough, you may realize you've met them before. A boss whose charisma hides their coldness. A friend who always agrees, but never truly connects. A public figure so flawless, it almost feels inhuman. Or maybe, most unsettling of all, it's someone even closer, someone you see in the mirror. Florence, Italy, the 16th century. The city smells of perfume and blood. Behind the velvet curtains of palaces, men plot in whispers. Alliances are formed with a toast and dissolved with a knife. To survive here is not a matter of strength, but of skill, the skill of illusion. This is the world Niccolo Machiavelli was born into, a world where trust was a liability, where smiles were often preludes to betrayal. In this chaos, he learned the brutal truth that would shape his political philosophy. A prince must learn how not to be good, and to use this knowledge as necessity requires. In Renaissance Italy, deception wasn't a vice, it was a strategy. Flattery was not a sign of politeness, but a weapon. The courtier didn't just serve the prince, he manipulated him, presented himself as indispensable, while quietly orchestrating his own ascent. Charm was currency, wit was armor. A mask wasn't just protection, it was identity. Machiavelli observed this with ruthless clarity. He realized that in a world of competing ambitions, those who told the truth were often destroyed. But those who mastered the art of appearing virtuous, even when they weren't, rose to power. The key was appearance. It didn't matter if a ruler was cruel, so long as he appeared just. It didn't matter if he was greedy, so long as he was generous in spectacle. This wasn't hypocrisy. It was survival. And so began the institutionalization of fakeness. Now, fast forward 500 years. The palaces are gone, the swords are gone, but the masks, they've only evolved. Today, the court is the corporate boardroom, the prince is the CEO, and the courtiers wear suits instead of silks. They praise your ideas in meetings, schedule follow-up coffees, nod when you speak, and forward your work to someone else with their name on it. Performance is still everything. There's the political candidate who campaigns on humility, then disappears behind luxury. The manager who preaches teamwork while quietly eliminating threats to their authority. The influencer who cries on camera about authenticity while reading from a scripted, sponsored monologue. What was once flattery is now personal branding. What was once strategic silence is now media training. What was once a royal mask is now a curated profile photo and a string of buzzwords on LinkedIn. We have not evolved past deception, we have simply digitized it, and the reward system remains the same. In monarchic courts, you were rewarded for your loyalty and obedience, even if it was fake. In modern institutions, you're rewarded for your likability and visibility, even if it's hollow. Competence is optional, authenticity is irrelevant, but charisma, conformity, and calculated charm, essential. This is not accidental. The system favors those who know how to manipulate appearances, not those who challenge them. The more palatable you seem, the more power you're allowed. The more strategic your silence, the more respected your voice. And so, fake people rise, not because they're anomalies, but because the system was built for them. Because charm, like wealth, compounds. A charming faker gets invited to more rooms, is given the benefit of the doubt, receives second chances that others never do. Eventually, they're so high up that their mask becomes policy, their image becomes culture, and their inauthenticity becomes invisible, even to themselves. The court has changed, but the dance remains. And those who refuse to dance, those who choose honesty over strategy, often find themselves exiled, overlooked, or punished. Because in a world where perception is power, truth is the most dangerous thing you can speak. The faker is not always a villain. Sometimes they're a child, frozen in time. They weren't born fake. No one is. But somewhere along the way they learned a painful lesson, that being themselves was dangerous. Maybe they were punished for expressing anger. Maybe they were ignored when they were sad. Maybe they were only praised when they pleased others. And so, they made a trade, a silent, invisible bargain. If I act the way they want, maybe they'll love me. This is where the mask begins. Not as a manipulation, but as a defense. Attachment theory tells us that early relationships shape our emotional survival strategies. If love was inconsistent or conditional, a child may learn to adapt by becoming hyper-attuned to others' emotional states, mirroring them, pleasing them, avoiding any behavior that might risk disconnection. This child grows into an adult who doesn't just wear a mask. They are the mask. They smile when they're anxious. They praise when they're envious. They apologize when they're angry. Their emotions have been rewritten, not felt, but rehearsed. And to the outside world, they look kind, polite, humble, but inside, they're in pain. This is the emotional core of the faker, a deep, unmet need for safety, and the fear that if they ever took the mask off, no one would love what they see. Have you ever met someone who never gets angry, but somehow makes you feel uneasy? Maybe they always agree. They compliment you, support your ideas, offer help, but something's missing. Their kindness feels weightless. Their presence, ghost-like. If you're thinking of someone right now, leave a comment. Just an emoji. You don't even have to explain. Let's see how many of us are spotting the same patterns, because what you're sensing is the absence of realness. Fake people mimic, but they don't connect. They mirror your expectations, but they never challenge them. And, ironically, deep down, they resent you for it. Because by accepting the mask, you've unknowingly confirmed their deepest fear, that their real self isn't worth knowing. It's a paradox. The faker hides to be accepted, then despises those who accept the false version of them. Their life becomes a silent performance of unmet needs and misdirected anger. Psychologically, this is often rooted in narcissistic self-construction, not the boastful, arrogant narcissism you might expect, but the vulnerable kind. A fragile identity built entirely on external validation. A hollow house with mirrors for walls. They don't feel emotions as much as they simulate them. Mirror neurons, the part of the brain responsible for empathy, can be hijacked, trained to echo emotions without fully experiencing them, like an actor crying on cue, like a smile that's been practiced in the mirror. Some fake humility, because they've learned that arrogance repels. Some fake empathy, because they know it earns trust. Some fake struggle, because they've realized that pain sells. This isn't always calculated. Often, it's unconscious. The faker has buried their authentic self so deeply, they've forgotten it was ever real. What remains is a curated, strategic personality. Agreeable, pleasing, well-liked, and profoundly disconnected from its own core. Carl Jung called this the danger of shadow repression, when we disown our anger, our envy, our sadness, and instead project a sanitized version of ourselves into the world. But what we repress doesn't disappear. It festers, and eventually, it leaks out. Through passive aggression, through breakdowns, through quiet resentment. In truth, the faker doesn't want to manipulate you. They want to be seen, but they're terrified that their real self, the angry, insecure, flawed self, will not be enough. So they keep performing, even when no one's watching. And here's the most tragic part. Many fake people don't know they're fake. They've performed for so long that the mask feels like their face. They've edited themselves for approval so many times that they've forgotten what their unfiltered voice even sounds like. They don't know how to connect, only how to impress. They don't know how to feel, only how to react. And in the end, they don't know who they are, only who they're supposed to be. Let's be honest. Fake people don't rise to the top because they're brilliant manipulators. They rise because we lift them there. We click, we follow, we applaud, we nod, we elect, we repost. We reward their surface because it reflects what we want to see and avoid what we fear to face. This is where things get uncomfortable. The faker isn't operating in a vacuum. They thrive in an ecosystem. And that ecosystem is us. We want to be lied to, not in words, but in emotional comfort. We don't want the doctor who says your lifestyle is killing you. We want the one who says your numbers aren't that bad. We don't want the friend who says you're being selfish. We want the one who says you're just misunderstood. We don't want the truth. We want reassurance wrapped in performance. Machiavelli knew this. In The Prince, he writes, "The people are always taken in by appearances, and the world is composed of the vulgar." He didn't mean vulgar as an insult. He meant the masses, the collective. He understood that most people, most of the time, don't want to see beneath the surface. They want to believe in the illusion. It's safer, simpler, cleaner, and fake people. They serve that need perfectly. They become what you need them to be. The agreeable coworker, the visionary leader, the relatable celebrity. Their existence feels stable, pleasing, affirming. But it's a performance calibrated to reflect our unspoken desires, our need for certainty, approval, and hope. Even when it's empty. Especially when it's empty. Because the truth is messy. Authenticity is uncomfortable. Real people contradict themselves. They make you feel exposed. They challenge your beliefs. They disappoint you, not because they're flawed, but because they're honest. Fake people avoid all that. They stay in the lines, they serve the narrative, and they rise because they offer what realness never can: predictability. Let's test something. Think of your workplace, your social circle, your country. Who's at the top? Is it the most insightful, the most honest, the most emotionally mature, or is it the most polished? We often confuse polish with competence. A calm voice, a confident gaze, a perfect anecdote at the perfect time. These traits soothe us. They give the illusion of control, of capability. But often, it's just that, an illusion. This is the illusion of competence. The idea that a well-performed identity must be the result of inner mastery. But mastery is quiet, doubtful, uncomfortable. Performance is loud, certain, smooth, and we reward performance. Because of groupthink. When one person buys in, others follow. When 10 people praise the fake leader, the 11th questions their own instincts. The faker is protected not by their depth, but by the crowd's momentum. This is how herd mentality forms. We've all seen it. The influencer who fakes vulnerability and is rewarded with applause. The executive who cuts corners but speaks well and gets promoted. The politician who lies but smiles, shakes hands, and promises change. And we say, well, at least they're better than the others. They're just better at the game, but the game exists because we keep playing it. We are not innocent bystanders. We feed the machine. Every time we choose comfort over confrontation, every time we say nothing when something feels wrong, every time we favor charisma over character, we cast a vote. A silent vote for fakery. The uncomfortable truth. Fake people don't fool us, they reflect us. Our need for validation, our fear of conflict, our hunger for easy answers, our reluctance to look deeper. They offer the illusion we want, and in exchange, we offer them power. It's a symbiosis. They survive because we give them permission. And if we ever hope to stop rewarding masks, we must begin by asking, why are we so afraid of the face beneath? It always starts the same way. A smile, a compliment, a shared moment that feels genuine. The kind of connection that makes you exhale. Like maybe, finally, someone sees you, they listen, they care, they agree, they understand. You let your guard down. Trust begins to grow. And for a while, it feels effortless. But something's off. Small contradictions, a missed call, a strange shift in tone, moments that don't add up. You brush them aside, give the benefit of the doubt. Maybe you're being too sensitive. You tell yourself this again and again, until one day, the mask slips. And you see it. The friendship wasn't real. The praise was leverage. The love was theater. And suddenly, you're not just betrayed. You're disoriented. That's what fake people do. They don't just lie. They fracture your sense of what's real. You question yourself. Was it ever real? Was I imagining the connection? Did I make this up? This isn't just manipulation. It's psychological dislocation. There's a word for this. Betrayal, trauma. It's not the event that breaks you. It's the collapse of your reality. The mind can recover from pain, but not easily from confusion, especially when the person who hurt you was the one you trusted the most. Take the friend who was always there for you until you needed something they couldn't control, and suddenly they vanished. No fight, no closure, just silence, and you're left replaying every memory, trying to find the moment where the performance began, or the boss who praised your dedication, said you were family, until budget cuts arrived. And now your desk is empty, and their warmth is gone like it never existed. Or the lover who looked into your eyes and promised you forever. They knew your stories. They held your secrets. But now you realize they were never truly there. They were playing a role, saying the right things, mimicking the right emotions, but behind the eyes, nothing. And that's the most chilling part. Fake people leave behind hollow echoes. You can't even fully mourn what you lost, because what you lost was never fully real. But the pain is very real. You start to doubt your instincts. You stop trusting your gut. You hesitate to open up. And before long, you begin to mimic them, just to survive. You smile when you don't mean it. You say you're fine when you're not. You become careful, calculated, guarded, not because you're fake, but because you've been wounded by someone who was. This is the long-term damage they leave behind, the slow erosion of emotional clarity, the inner fragmentation of constantly decoding contradictions, the exhaustion of wondering if you're the problem. You start to carry their silence. You replay the kindness, the conversations. You begin to gaslight yourself. Maybe you were too intense. Maybe you expected too much. Maybe they're just misunderstood. But somewhere deep down, a small voice remains. The one that felt the strangeness early on. The one that noticed the subtle coldness behind the praise. The one that sensed something wasn't right. That voice, that's your reality. And if you're listening closely, it's still speaking. Because fake people don't just deceive others. They deform your emotional compass. They turn love into calculation. They turn trust into vigilance. They turn you into a stranger to yourself. And here's the final devastation. The quiet truth many never admit. Sometimes, fake people don't just make you question reality. They make you feel fake in the process. You begin to emulate them. You become what they needed you to be. You adapt, you adjust, you mirror, you shape-shift to match their expectations. And slowly, you forget how to be yourself. Until one day, you look in the mirror and don't recognize the person looking back. And that leads us here, to the most brutal question of all. What if the most dangerous fake person is not someone else? What if it's you? It's easy to point fingers, to label the friend who ghosted you, the boss who used you, the partner who played a role so well you believed it. It's easy, and at times necessary, to recognize the masks others wear. But the most difficult, most disorienting realization comes not when you see through them. It comes when you see through yourself. When you realize that you too have been performing. Not maliciously, not with intent to harm, but gradually, quietly, out of survival, out of fear, out of exhaustion. It starts small. You silence your opinion in a meeting to keep the peace. You laugh at a joke you didn't find funny. You nod, smile, blend in, again and again, until one day you forget what your real expression even looks like. You weren't born fake, but you became fluent in it, because life taught you that performance is rewarded, that politeness is safer than honesty, that being agreeable is less costly than being real. You played the game to protect yourself, and slowly, the line between protection and identity blurred. Carl Jung warned us of this. He said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But that journey demands a painful prerequisite, seeing who you've pretended to be." We build our lives around strategies. We become the funny one, the smart one, the helper, the people pleaser, the ambitious one. But underneath these identities is often a terrified self, whispering, "Will they still love me if I stop performing?" The answer isn't simple, because truth, real truth, has a cost. When you stop pretending to be happy all the time, some people leave. When you admit you're struggling, some will withdraw. When you stop laughing at what offends your soul, you'll be told you're too serious. But there's a deeper cost that rarely gets spoken of. The cost of not being yourself. Every time you hide your pain to appear strong, you fracture a piece of your wholeness. Every time you suppress your anger to appear likable, you betray your boundaries. Every time you mirror others just to be accepted, you abandon the person within who is dying to be seen. And eventually, you lose the ability to tell the difference between your act and your essence. This is the ultimate betrayal. Not what others did to you, but what you've done to yourself to survive them. You became the faker. You've apologized when you weren't sorry. You've praised people you didn't respect. You've smiled while being disrespected, nodded when you wanted to scream, stayed silent when your truth was begging to be spoken, and the world clapped. They called you polite, humble, well-behaved, But deep inside, you felt hollow, like something sacred was slipping through your hands. This isn't shame. This is awakening. Because the moment you realize you've been performing is the same moment you get to stop. Right here, right now. Rip the mask off. Let the world see your scars, your doubt, your contradictions. Let them see the full, unfiltered, unpolished version of you. Because in a world of actors, the most dangerous thing you can be is real. And yes, it will cost you. You'll lose shallow relationships. You'll lose roles you've outgrown. You'll lose the comfort of always being accepted. But what you gain? You gain wholeness. You gain the ability to look in the mirror without flinching. You gain relationships built not on compliance, but on truth. You gain peace, not the quiet peace of avoidance, but the loud peace of authenticity. And maybe most importantly, you gain yourself. Because who you are beneath the act is enough. More than enough. It's powerful, raw, electric, and it's been waiting, silently, for your permission to exist. So ask yourself, have you become a version of yourself that you don't even like anymore? Have you sacrificed your voice for validation? Have you blurred the line between who you are and who you think you need to be? If so, this is your line in the sand. No more editing your soul for someone else's comfort. No more shrinking to fit their expectations. No more pretending you're okay with what breaks your spirit. This is your reclamation, not just of identity, but of reality itself. And if this message stirred something inside you, if it woke up something ancient and aching in your chest, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video. Not for the algorithm, but as a signal to yourself and to others that you're done pretending. Comment. Even if it's just one word, one sentence. Say what you've been silencing. Say what feels real. Share this message. Let it be a mirror to someone else. You never know who's quietly suffocating behind their own smile. And if you want more insights like this, that cut deeper than surface-level motivation, subscribe to Psychra. This is more than a channel. It's a sanctuary for the unmasked. So walk away from this video not just entertained, but altered, a little more awake, a little more whole, a little more you.